Indian-American Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley has called out nations like China and Pakistan as key adversaries of America and hailed India, Japan and Australia, among other nations, as its true friends. Nikki Haley has vowed that if voted to power, she will cut every cent in foreign aid for nations like China, Pakistan and Iraq, which hate America, saying a strong America doesn't pay off the bad guys. The 51-year-old two-term governor of South Carolina and the former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations formally launched her 2024 presidential bid earlier this month. Nikki Haley, who launched her bid on the 26th of February, commented that debt-laden Pakistan is in the pocket of China like Zimbabwe. This is soon after the debt-laden Pakistan's Finance Minister Ishaq Dar announced on the 24th of this month that State Bank of Pakistan received funds worth $700 million from the China Development Bank. Expressing her opinion on the Chinese dominance in countries in the form of debt, Nikki Haley took to a microblogging website and wrote, "Belarus is in the pocket of Russia, Zimbabwe in the pocket of China, Pakistan in the pocket of China. Cut all their aid. I will cut every cent in foreign aid for nations that hate us. A strong America doesn't pay off the bad guys. A proud America doesn't waste our people's hard-earned money. And the only leaders who deserve our trust are those who stand up to our enemies and stand beside our friends." She wrote this in an op-ed in the New York Post. She said that America spent $46 billion on foreign aid last year, which is given to nations like China, Pakistan and Iraq. American taxpayers deserve to know where that money is going and what it's doing, she added. They will be shocked to find that much of it goes into funding anti-American nations and causes. As president, I will put a stop to this fiasco, she said. According to Haley, the current Biden administration resumed military aid to Pakistan, though it's home to at least a dozen terrorist organizations, and its government is deeply in the hock to China. She said that as the U.S. ambassador to the UN, she strongly supported then-President Donald Trump's decision to cut nearly $2 billion of military aid to Pakistan because that nation supported terrorists who kill American troops. It was a major victory for our troops, our taxpayers and our vital interests, but it didn't go nearly far enough. We have still given them way too much in other aid. As president, I will block every penny, she has added. She said that the Biden administration restored $500 million to a corrupt UN agency that's supposed to help the Palestinian people, but in fact covers for deeply anti-Semitic propaganda against our ally Israel. She added the US has given Iraq more than $1 billion over the last few years, even though its government is getting closer to Iran. She said American taxpayers still give money to communist China for ridiculous environment programs despite the obvious threat China poses to Americans. We give money to Belarus, which is with Russian dictator Vladimir Putin as its closest ally. We even give money to communist Cuba, a country our own government has designated a state sponsor of terrorism, Nikki Haley added. She also added that it's been happening for decades under presidents of both parties. I am running for president to restore our nation's strength, our national pride and our people's trust. Backing American allies and friends like Israel and Ukraine is smart. Sending our tax dollars to enemies isn't, she added. At the UN, I put together a book of how much money we give other countries and how often they vote with us. It was eye-opening. We are giving huge amounts of cash to countries that vote against us most of the time. That does not make sense. I will stop it, Nikki Haley added. America can't buy our friends. We certainly never can buy off our enemies, said Nikki Haley. The Indian-American Republican presidential candidate has further vowed that if voted to power, she will cut every cent in foreign aid, once again reiterating China, Pakistan, Iraq, because she said they hate America. And she said a strong America doesn't pay off the bad guys. Now, according to Haley, the Biden administration resumed military aid to Pakistan very clearly. She also has said that these nations should not receive aid because they are working against the interest of our country. Now, while she vowed to block every penny, she also said we need to watch China because I think you are going to see China make a move for the Bagram Air Base. I think they are also going to make a move, she added, in Afghanistan, and they are going to try to use Pakistan to get stronger so that they have a go against India. So we have a lot of issues, she added. Now, in July, the US military had left the Bagram airfield, its key base in Afghanistan, after nearly 2 decades. At its height, the Bagram base was home to tens of thousands of US troops. The first thing, she further added, that one should do is immediately start connecting with allies, whether it's Taiwan, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's Israel, whether it's India. Australia, Japan, all of them, and reassure them that we will have their back and that we need them as well, Haley said. Secondly, we need to make sure that we are going on an anti-terrorist effort across the world, because we are now going to see with this moral victory that the jihadists have, you are going to see a heavy recruitment campaign around the world. So she's called out jihadists, resurgence of terrorism. She's also said you are going to see more lone wolf situations. Now, less than a fortnight after entering the race to the White House, Nikki Haley is leading against President Joe Biden in a hypothetical match, according to the latest opinion poll that was conducted last Friday. But she trails badly against the leading GOP candidate, former President Donald Trump. Rasmussen's report has said, based on a survey it conducted between the 16th and 19th of February. Now, among the Republicans, she comes at a third position after Trump at 52%, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis at 24%. Born Nimrata Nikki Randhawa to immigrant Punjabi Sikh parents, Nikki Haley is the third Indian American to run for the US presidency in 3 consecutive election cycles. Bobby Jindal ran in 2016, Vice President Kamala Harris in 2020, and days after Nikki Haley announced her White House bid, Indian American tech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, another Republican, has also launched his 2024 presidential bid. Now, before entering the presidential ballot, Nikki Haley has to win the Republican Party's presidential primary, which will start in January next year. The next US presidential election is scheduled to be held on November 5th, 2024. But clearly, Nikki Haley going all out to put herself out there, taking a strong positions against who she believes are America's friends, which includes nations like India, Australia, and Japan, and who she believes are America's adversaries and work against its interests, including nations like China, Pakistan, and Iraq.